It's Monday, November 12th. Welcome to MarketFoolery. I'm Chris Hill. Joining me in studio today from MFAM Funds, Bill Barker. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Is that the right way to introduce Veterans Day? Happy Veterans Day? Try again.
What? I don't know. What is it supposed to be?
Respectful or something? I mean,
I've seen.
Are you supposed? I mean, there's a little bit of difference, I think, and it's not quite like 4th of July or something.
It's not 4th of July, but you know, I guess I'd just say thank you.
Try to respect the veterans, would you?
I was really trying. Thank you to all our veterans out there listening.
Better.
So yesterday I was down. Don't worry, we're going to get to the news. Relax. Yesterday I was down at Haynes Point in Washington, D.C. I was running a Veterans Day 10K race. And as is often the case, the national anthem was played before the race began. And then after that, they played all of the songs for the different branches in the military. They had, you know, the Army song, the Navy song, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, all the songs. And I thought that was a really nice touch for Veterans Day, because yesterday was actually Veterans Day. Today is the day we observe it.
Yeah, and when I worked in the federal government for a period of time, and we got Veterans Day off, it was a surprise because you don't tend to get it off in the private sector in a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the market's open,
and so I think it was like the first year it happened. I think I almost showed up to work because it was like on a Tuesday or something like that, and it does not move around to land on a Monday the way other holidays are frequently moved around. So I hope everybody who should be taking the day off is.
And with that, let's get to the news of the day. It's the deal of the day. SAP buying Qualtrics International for $8 billion. SAP is the enterprise software company based in Germany. Qualtrics, a young up-and-coming company based in Utah that had filed the necessary paperwork to go public. And I guess SAP came in and said, we hear you're looking to raise around $200 million in your IPO. Here's a check with a couple more zeros.
Yes, and I think the second biggest acquisition for SAP ever, maybe, extends its ventures into the cloud, and that's where it is attempting to, position itself for the future as it moves there. All of its business is there, and this is part of that. I don't know the Qualtrics numbers enough to know whether this is a good price, but the market is certainly taking the opposite end of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, SAP was down about 6% at one point this morning. So maybe clearly there's some thinking there that you probably could have gotten this for less.
Seems like that is, I'm not going to say they could have, but that is the market's interpretation, and actually not one that is different from the large majority of reactions to an acquisition, which is typically that the acquirer goes down because they've paid a premium, and for the most part, people don't think that is necessarily the best use of cash. A lot of times, it's not.
So this is also a good day. And we see this play out in pretty much every industry where either one company gets bought and then other companies in that space rise a little bit as a result of that, or hey, this company in the industry reports some great earnings, so maybe that portends good things for other companies. In this case, it's SurveyMonkey, which certainly has a catchier name than Qualtrics International, but SurveyMonkey shares are up a little bit. So for those who bought into the IPO and have seen their shares of SurveyMonkey essentially do nothing but go down since the IPO just a couple of months ago, today getting a brief respite from that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not coming into contact with a lot of SurveyMonkey results in my daily life, although I frequently check 538 to look at their data analytics work on things political. And in terms of how there are frequent SurveyMonkey polls that show up in their collection, and it's given a very, very low ranking. It gets a grade of D-.
that's it's not as low as you can go, but it's pretty close.
No, there are things that get Fs, but I mean, D- is a bad grade. And I guess in comparison to the way that other polls are done, which are more human intensive, I think the SurveyMonkey results are not, at least by Nate Silver and his crowd at 538, deemed particularly reliable compared to the other frequent surveyors and poll takers out there.
So if you listen to our Industry Focus podcast, you may have heard Dylan Lewis, who hosts the technology show on Fridays, recently did an episode about SurveyMonkey. And so I was going back and forth on Slack with Dylan this morning about SurveyMonkey and being up on the news. And one of his comments was, SurveyMonkey is the Blue Apron of tech. I don't completely understand it, but it certainly doesn't sound like a compliment.
No, it doesn't, especially given how Blue Apron has done as a public company. So I don't think we're hearing a lot of compliments about SurveyMonkey out there. But you could help with their branding.
Yeah, I mean, when Dylan put out on Twitter sort of, what we're going to be doing a show about SurveyMonkey, what questions do you have? All of my questions are about the name. It's like, why'd they pick monkey? Why didn't they go with dolphin? Because aren't dolphins supposed to be the smartest animal? Stuff like that. How many names did they go through before they said, well, we'll go with monkey?
Well, you don't necessarily, when you're polling, want the smart animal, right? You just want the representative one. You're trying to get everybody to take your survey, right? Not just the smart animals.
I think if you're a data analytics company, you want to demonstrate that you are smart. And I'm just saying, dolphin strikes me as smarter than monkey.
Well, I mean, there's debate about that, right?
Not a great debate.
About whether dolphins are smarter than monkeys? I mean, we could debate. I think there are different ways of measuring their intelligence, right?
I guess so. I'm just saying that, when I think about Flipper, Flipper kind of had it all over whatever monkey was on. I mean, what's the biggest monkey on television in TV history? Is it like BJ and the Bear? That kind of thing?
That's an orangutan.
Was it?
That's not no monkey.
Are they different?
What are you talking about?
You're saying orangutans
what kind of
and
primate
monkeys?
are you?
Clearly not.
Let me get back to something vaguely related to the issues at hand, which is SAP, which is actually where we started this a while ago. Whenever we're talking about SAP, I'm reminded of the ARSTA rule regarding investing in or alongside companies that do business with SAP.
This is named for your colleague Tony Arsta?
Yes.
And what is for the? I know Tony, but I'm unfamiliar with the ARSTA rule.
Well, I had to check with him to get the exact formulation of it, but as Tony formulates it for my benefit, it is sell any stock the moment a company announces that they are implementing SAP. The setup always takes longer and costs much more than originally projected. Meanwhile, they also tend to delay other improvement projects. Once they have the bugs ironed out, they will be a more efficient company, but that's probably at least 2 to 3 years out.
Safe to say Tony is bearish on SAP.
Not necessarily the company. They just on companies that end up utilizing them, or at least that the stock price will not be attractive. It will not move in the direction you want as a bull for 2 to 3 years. Now, that's for other people to look at. But I think that it's been his experience that when a company utilizes SAP, it tends to be a little rockier than they hope, or than they at least tell people it is going to be.
So I mentioned when I introduced you that you're from MFAM funds, which may have given pause to at least some of our listeners, because I, in the past, have always introduced you as being from Motley Fool Asset Management or from Fool Funds, that sort of thing. And it's because there's been a little rebranding in your shop. In fact, the website is now MFAMfunds.com. And I have to say, whoever did the website, kudos to them, because it looks great.
Well, I would thank you, but I'll thank you on behalf of.
I didn't for 1 second think you had anything to do with the website.
No, I didn't think that either. But listeners may have mistakenly thought that I could have had anything to do with the quality work that's been done on the website by Matt Trogdon and Carl Henley and others, and we'll send them all your way to take a bow.
Kudos on the new site. And when your colleague Charlie Travers was here, he was talking about, among other things, you guys have a new ETF.
We do, for which Charlie is doing all the important work, and that's available out on the market to anybody that is interested in researching a small mid-cap growth ETF. We've got one.
We are taping this midday Monday, and so I can tell the dozens of listeners that if you want to get up Tuesday morning and tune your television or viewing device over to CNBC, you can see Bill Barker in action. What are you going to be talking about? You're going to be on Squawk Box tomorrow morning. What time Eastern? We're on like little after 6 a.m.?
6:10 Eastern.
6:10 Eastern time. Okay. And so you'll be getting up early.
Yes. Yes, I will.
What are you going to be talking about with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin and friend of Motley Fool Money, Becky Quick?
I don't know yet. There are some. They've given me a few questions, and I'm going to get back to them on which of those will make the best appearance. What I've got to say on them, and so yeah, I don't want to spoil any surprises for when you talk about dozens of listeners. It's possible that you are underselling. There may be hundreds. Who's to know? You're going to break that news here.
Not going to break that news.
But if you were to refer to the potential listeners out there and refer to tomorrow's viewers in the dozens, you'd be vastly overstating how many people are likely
No.
Of the listeners here, the Venn diagram, people listening to this podcast who will also be watching CNBC at 6:10 tomorrow morning. Do you think that gets into the dozens?
I think it gets into the dozens, but only because dozens technically means 24 or higher. So yes, I think it does. But no, for a second I thought you were referring to the audience for Squawk Box.
No. Legendary.
Let me ask you this: are you hoping for any sort of breaking news? Are you hoping for any sort of something breaks either late today in the business world or very early tomorrow morning, so that whatever else you plan on talking about, they say to you, you get an email at 5:30 saying, "Well, of course we're going to ask you about this breaking news."
No, except that it might get me more sleep, because I think if there's real breaking news, they'll go to somebody else. Like this, that's the way it works, right? Because it's unlikely that my expertise is on that breaking news. If it's true, serious breaking news that they need to cover in a with somebody who is especially qualified to do that. And in fact, this is a rescheduling of an appearance that was postponed because I think something had come up with China, and so they went, understandably, with somebody who was more qualified to talk specifically about that issue. I can do stuff like that, and I've done TV and prepped with the associate producer and say, all right, can you talk about where gas prices are headed?
Sure.
And I say, I can give you an answer to that, but it's not really worth airing. And I've found out that that's not enough of a flag not to be asked that question.
We're here with oil and gas industry expert Bill Barker.
The only time in my life that I have ever been referred to as an expert on anything is on global television, where they always introduce you as an expert on things.
Bill, you're an expert on this. ... One more news item from the weekend, which is goes in the plus column for shareholders of Comcast, because Comcast is the parent company of Universal Studios, and the box office winner over the weekend, inexplicably, was the animated movie Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. Took in north of $65 million domestically, and probably bodes well for the coming weeks, simply because we've got Thanksgiving coming up. That's typically a time for family movies and families looking to take their kids to the movies, that sort of thing. I saw a story this morning. Our guest on Motley Fool Money this coming weekend is going to be Nell Minow, and one of the things I want to talk to her about is the sort of the box office this year, because I saw a story this morning that it's turned out to be a better year than expected, and it didn't specifically call out The Grinch, but it gave examples of movies that I think The Grinch falls into the same category, which are essentially there are expectations for not the tentpole movies, but sort of one level below that. And those movies, particularly over the last 4 months, have ended up doing somewhere from slightly to significantly better than expected. And I think The Grinch probably fell into that category where it's like going into this weekend, it's like, well, it'll probably do pretty well. And this is, better than people were thinking.
Well, you are sort of an expert on movies. And I guess my question for you and your expertise is whether you would have opened this movie this early. Because it feels early to me to go Grinch.
I think it does, but typically studios are positioning their movies as early as they can. And in some cases, if you haven't decided on a release date, then you're sort of you have to factor in what other studios have done. So in the case of this movie, my hunch is that Disney has a Nutcracker movie coming out. The Nutcracker in the Four Realms, I think is the name of the movie.
I have breaking news. Okay. Because my computer is on. Okay. And in fact, I have been canceled for tomorrow.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
In light of the market today. So there will be another rescheduling.
Wow.
Told you.
That's amazing. See, for anyone...
And yet that's something that I could be considered kind of an expert on. The market is down.
The market's down. What's going on?
What's going on? Look, I can do that.
For anyone...
We could do that show right now.
We're not going to. We've been going on long enough. For anyone who listens to this show and has ever wondered, how much editing do you guys do? There you go. That's all. There's your answer, because we're not editing any of this. I think in terms of what my hunch is that Disney came out with their release date for The Nutcracker in the Four Realms, and Universal came out and said, okay, well, we can't open a family holiday movie the same weekend that Disney is. We got to go another weekend. And in their case, it's probably smarter to go earlier. So I agree with you. It's a little early. It's probably a week earlier than they were intending to do it, but it's, you can't look at the results over the weekend and say, oh, they really blew it.
And you're confused as to the success of this so far. You're surprised. You're not as big on the Grinch as you are on Rudolph and some other Christmas products, but a lot of us think that, the Grinch is really what Christmas is all about.
I'm a huge fan of the original Grinch. I'm a massive fan of the original.
Not as big as my family, but
the book. And, I haven't named a pet after after Max.
Nor do you own an original cell from the animation.
Nice,
which my dad does.
So when you said family, you weren't referring to you and your wife and your children. You were referring to like your extended family.
I don't think of my dad as my extended family.
Well, to get back to the Grinch, I'm a huge fan of the original book and the original Boris Karloff narrated animated television special. The Jim Carrey live action remake, I am happy to say I have not spent 1 second watching.
I haven't seen that.
I will not watch this one, but I'm not the target audience.
My original TMF name was named after the Grinch's dog as well.
That's
TMF
right.
Max.
What's your TMF name now?
I guess it still is.
Oh, okay.
We don't really use that once we are in MFAM funds.
Okay, so are you going to go see this movie? Huge Grinch fan that you are?
It's a good question. I'm a Benedict Cumberbatch fan, so it's possible. It'll depend, I think, on what the kids do with it. They haven't mentioned wanting to see it yet.
Don't you think that doing voiceover work is probably hands down the sweetest gig in all of Hollywood?
I would think. I mean, it seems to be good money and not the hardest work.
And not the most time-consuming work.
Yeah. I think, this is something you could get in on.
Not that Benedict...
Your voice is known by dozens.
Not that Benedict Cumberbatch is hurting for work. He's fine.
He's fine. Yeah. No, they had to pay up for him. But I think it's a good choice.
Why? I mean, I'm just...
You ever seen his work?
Yeah, I've seen his work. But why do you think he's a good choice for the Grinch?
He's got a little bit of malevolence going on there, which I think...
I mean, he's British. He probably has a lot of malevolence.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Unnecessary attack on our friends across the pond.
I'm kidding.
Just going with the times, huh? Why not take a swipe at...
There was I forget was it Jaguar that had that fantastic Super Bowl commercial with Mark Strong, Tom Hiddleston, better known as Loki in the Marvel universe, and other British actors basically talking about playing villains. And you know what? I'm going to find the ad and I'm going to post it on our on the MarketFoolery Twitter account. Do you know the ad I'm talking about? It's a fantastic ad because it's
kind of recall.
It looks great. It sounds great, and they're sort of winking at we're British, and we play villains, and it's fun. Yeah. Which it probably is.
I would think so.
We're very far afield, aren't we?
We've gone pretty much into an apropos of nothing episode already.
Which will be coming soon. We're just a couple of weeks away. At our member event in Denver, there were a couple of members who asked, hey, by the way, when are you going to be doing another apropos of nothing? And I said, soon.
Well, a little time just freed up for me. I could do 6:10 tomorrow morning. I could tape it for you. For those, thought I was going to be busy. For those who are looking forward to our next apropos of nothing, you already know that there's no way in the world we would ever tape that at 6 in the morning. No, because we're drinking during the apropos of nothing.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Bill Barker from MFAM Funds. That's MFAMfunds.com. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
As always, people on the program may have interest in the stocks they talk about on the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against, so don't buy or sell stocks based solely on what you hear. That's going to do it for this edition of MarketFoolery. The show is mixed by the Iron Man, Austin Morgan. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.